You're listening to the Overfunctioning Podcast, Zac and Alex's Movie Reviews, connecting leadership concepts and movies.
Hello, I'm Zac.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our ZAMR.
Zac, what is the ZAMR again?
It's Zac and Alex's movie review.
In which we watch movies, and then with our lens of Bowen family systems theory.
Because we're overfunctioners.
Yes, that we're going to look at this movie, and we're going to use any sort of psychological leadership attributes that are a part of it, and including spoilers, so watch out. We do have some spoilers in this one for you.
He dies at the end.
Yeah, and so...
Not Alex, the priest.
Yeah, so actually the movie we did watch this last time is Calvary, which is different from Calvary.
Cavalry.
Yes.
Yeah. I always miss that. Mix that up.
And I do love horses, but there is one horse in the movie.
There is one horse, and it's ridden by a man who's very wealthy, and he shows it.
Pretty much a jerk. Okay, so Zac, what's this movie about?
Yeah, so this movie is a movie I was introduced to in college by the Joe Kane, hashtag the big JK, and he's just a great old chap. He introduced me to this movie, and I loved it, so I came into this having watched it, and I think you appreciated it from the get-go. This movie is about a priest who is living in this, I just learned from you, it's not South Ireland, it's just Ireland.
Just Ireland, yes. Yeah. There's Northern Ireland, and then there's just Ireland, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like West Virginia and East Virginia.
No,
yeah.
Just regular Virginia.
So, Calvary is actually about a priest, a Catholic priest, because that begs differentiating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it opens up with this quote from St. Augustine that, is frankly not important. And
so, I'm glad you're telling us.
Yeah, and so it sets the scene where this priest is taking confessional from a man that we don't see, and this man, fairly graphically and shockingly, from my perspective, tells him, the priest, that he was raped as a boy by a priest, and that it hurt him, and he goes on to say that he's going to kill the priest because who would expect a man to kill a good priest?
Now, when you say the priest, we're talking about the current priest he's talking to. The
Yes.
other priest that raped him was already killed, already died. So, in an unexpected twist, he was going to kill the good, as he called him, the good priest.
And so we're watching this, and we're pretty distraught. I've seen this twice, and so I wasn't expecting it at all. But it sets the scene for the whole movie, which is really interesting. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about it, Alex, because I love this movie. I'm not gonna tell you what my rating will be, but on a scale of horses, it's 7 horses.
Oh wow, incredible! Well,
yeah.
I must say that when I picked up this movie, as I do most of my movies from the library because it's free, I did notice, and I looked at all the pictures, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Whoop, nope, there's even more people on the back. It's the same person 3 times, but that's okay. None of them are smiling, other than one has like a slight smirk. So let me tell you, when I knew that nobody was smiling on the cover itself, I thought, wow, this is going to be very uplifting. I cannot wait.
It's actually a dark comedy, and I say that because there are some really funny lines in there. I actually laughed quite a lot the second time because I wasn't quite so tense.
Not a lot of laughing for me.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of real zingers that you missed.
Yeah, I definitely missed a couple zingers. So, as far as basic premises go with the layout of the movie, so with every movie, there's going to be a character that's going to be changing throughout, and then they have a guide. Zac, could you help me out with that? Because I'm really confused at who the main character was, how they changed, and who the guide was.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because when I look at this film and after I watched this film for the first time and I discussed it, it's actually a film about caricatures. And everyone, including the priest, is a caricature of their persona, but specifically their sin. And you see everyone, and eventually the priest himself, fall into it. And it's interesting in the sense that I see growth from the priest only in so much as I saw him fall and then rise back up.
Wait, so his fall was... So there's a point in the movie where he gets really drunk. Is that his fall?
Yeah, he just
And
is
he shoots up the
overwhelmed by
bar.
sin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me
And so what's his rise?
He's actually driving away. If you notice, that's the first time in the entire movie he took off his priestly robes. I don't know what they're called. I know they have a name, but it's the first time he was he took off his robes. He was wearing a leather jacket. He was driving away in his car, which was the only possession he had that really had any worldly significance. And he turns back around. It cuts to black. He wakes up in his bed and he drives to the beach. They give you two false starts. One is the old man who's trying to kill himself because he's old and gonna die.
Yeah.
And the second being the rich man. You're expecting maybe this is the guy who threatened to kill him, and come to find out he's really just seeking help. And there's this heartfelt lack of change because you see the priest make a promise that he'll fix him. He'll come back to help get this rich man back on the right path, knowing that he's going to die.
Yeah. So really, so you're telling me there's no guide, and really there's not really any change of any character.
There was change in the rich man. I think we could agree to that. And I think the change was...
I don't agree with that.
You don't?
No. I mean, what did he change? Like, he somehow became remorseful for like 5 seconds, and then, I
know, but I think you needed that, and I think the main priest needed that. And I think the change was in the priests degrading over time, and I don't think it was immediately visible. But you look through this movie, and you see character after character, scene after scene, and they're short scenes, and relatively short, and there's 15 to 20 characters, 10 to 20 characters, and each one just has this depressing, visible, like they're lauding their sin, and you see them just pushing it in this priest's face, and he's absorbing all of these blows. They're mocking him in some capacity. They're flaunting their sin in his face, asking him to respond to it violently or angrily, or they're just trying to provoke him in any way they can. And you see him resisting stoically, and he slowly slips time after time until the climax of his depravity is he ends up drunk in a bar, in a fist fight, having fired off the gun that he was going to give supposedly to the man who was going to kill himself, the old man. And then next scene, he's driving away, which is just the pits. He's in this entire scene, his identity is wrapped up in his role with this town, in him being beyond reproach is who he was initially. They even say at a point, no one can say a bad word about you, and so you gotta wonder. And I thought that was interesting. He's beyond reproach, but not suspect.
Yeah, I as I watched it, I was wondering about who he was as a person. It seemed like he was, everybody was just focusing all of their crap onto him, and so he was like, if you have a 3 points of a triangle, there was him at the outside, and people, their problems, and him, and they were just offloading all their anxiety on top of him.
And he was not trying to triangle himself. He was sincerely going to people as some sort of guide to them, and rather than becoming a guide, he became a dumping ground for their anxieties.
Isn't part of that part of a priest's job in some ways?
Oh yeah, for certain. And
look, I don't know much about Catholicism, right? But I do know that there's a certain part of it where the priest is used as a confessional. He takes in the sins and then helps people like forgive of their sins with Hail Marys. And I really, and I apologize to those people who are watching who are Catholic, but like, isn't part of his job is to be able to absorb some of that anxiety and then help people forgive them for their sins.
He is the mediator between them and God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So So really, this is almost brought upon himself because that's what his job is.
Yeah. He's in a role that's strife with anxiety, and you don't see anyone in this movie that doesn't have any problems. And I think that's fascinating because you got to imagine in someone's role in that life, in the life of leading a church. If you're in a good church, hopefully you're surrounded by good people. But there are people who are in churches that aren't healthy or aren't, and he's in one of those. And he is surrounded by people who are coming to church on Sundays, a lot of whom are confessing their sins to him. And he's looking at them, and you can't talk about that which is said in confession outside of confession. And so he has to have a personal relationship with them, separated from them dumping all of their sin and darkness and depravity upon him.
But they treat him like crap. Even outside of it, they treat him like crap. So everybody just treats him like crap. And I couldn't quite understand how or why or like when did he decide that he just allows people to do that to him. Like, it makes no sense to me. It's almost like they didn't even see him as a leader. I'm not sure why they're coming to his church, number one. Number two, I'm not exactly sure why they're treating him like crap. For the most part, at least in my experience, and maybe it's different in Ireland, I have no idea. But when there's a leader of a church or any other leader that you're looking at that is clearly the leader of some sort of system, usually that person isn't treated that way. And so it was very confusing to me to understand why that was happening. Do you have any ideas of why that was happening? Was that just because the movie was about, what was it about?
So some themes of the movie. This was specifically addressing the theme of pedophilia with Catholic priests. That was a very, very big theme of the movie. And you see people treat him as such. And so, not to say that the movie was about that, but there's this foreboding idea of how people view priests and the role of them. You mentioned it earlier. Why are they going to that church? At one point, he's talking with the rich man, and the rich man is saying that he's going to donate money to the church to make him feel better, and that behind goodwill, what's that called when rich people give money away?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big
Charity?
word. Charity, it's charity, but on a bigger, richer
I forget
scale.
what he said,
Yeah. And he goes on, and the priest is looking at him, and he says, "Why not make it 50?" And the other priest is in shock, and he's looking at this father, and he's like, "No, why are you pushing him?" He's just like, he's about to give us money, don't risk that. And he just holds his ground, and the rich man says, "Why not make it 100? It means nothing." And the father says, "Exactly." And it's those conversations that he's seeking out. Those lines that he drops throughout the movie, I thought were admirable. I appreciate them a lot because I wish I could talk like that. He responded in a way that didn't take bait, but forced people to think about the words he said, hopefully to some depth.
Yeah, there's definitely I guess I'm just really I was really irritated by the lack of respect for this man. And so and maybe that's just a cultural thing. I really cannot wrap my head around why they were treating him like that. I have no idea, other than the standpoint of there were other priests, other places who have done bad things, which is kind of like, I mean, people do bad things all the time. Is that I just want you to clarify for me. Is that specifically because it was the theme of this movie?
What, that they treated him badly?
Yeah, I mean, like, is it safe to assume that if I go to some other town in Ireland, I would like to think if I go to another town in Ireland, everybody's not just dumping ground on the priest and they want to kill him.
Yeah. I think the point of this movie is I think that this is a man who is attempting to be Christ-like among a spiritual famine. You look at that town, or at least that congregation, and there is no one who is a support for him. He is a rock, and you see himself fail. And a big theme of the movie is forgiveness. You see him forgive himself, and you see him forgiving the people who are wronging him in this position of leadership, who are looking at him disrespectfully, who are treating him like crap, and he continually engages with them because of this, we talk about guiding principles, because of this desire to meet them and to help lead them into a place where they are right. That's kind of how he phrases it with the rich man.
Riddle me this. Why were they treating him like crap?
And it seems like that's the way that they were already doing it, but they were seeking something else.
So whose fault was it that they're treating him like crap?
I mean, are you trying to blame him for being treated like crap?
I think that he has some sort of stake in it. I can't imagine that he doesn't have any blame.
Okay, but aren't there situations that some people are called into regardless of how they're going to be treated?
Give me...
I would say, I would propose maybe you don't have to, in order to be a leader, it is not necessarily required for you to avoid places where you will not be treated with respect.
Yeah, but your responses, and whether your reactions or responses to the lack of respect can change things quite quickly, I would say.
Yeah, so I guess the question is does he let those responses provoke him to an emotional state? I would say that is the primary reason that we as leaders should not engage in those situations, not because of how we're treated or the way that people view us or respond to us, because we talk about how influence is relationship, and there's a place for cutoff, right? But if he's able to withstand that emotional tirade,
yeah,
and it doesn't affect his ability to lead, to minister to these people, why wouldn't he remain in influence with them?
I don't know. I don't know. Look, Zach, I was really confused by this movie.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you. Just from the standpoint of, like, I just cannot wrap my head around. I didn't feel any sympathy for any character whatsoever in this movie. At all.
I don't think you're supposed to.
So for me, it was really hard for me to enjoy the movie at all.
Okay, so what did you get out of the movie? What are your thoughts of this movie? I know you have trouble identifying with it at all.
I got nothing out of this movie. I got zero.
So when I look at this movie, and I know you have trouble in these situations. When I look at this movie, what I see this as is I see spectrums, I see contradictions, and I would say a theme of this movie is that faith can be hard, especially in dark times. We don't know if he was treated poorly before this or if it's a recent thing.
I would assume he was. I mean,
yeah,
you just don't. All of a sudden, people just don't wake up and treat you like a piece of crap.
I would say that sometimes that can happen, but
yeah, but your response to it, he just kept allowing it to happen, which I did not understand. He is not good at what he does. He's just not. Like, in my humble opinion, I don't think he was very good at what he does.
Oh, and see, I would greatly disagree.
Okay, explain to me why.
There were so many ways that he responded to people that I see this twisting of logic, this twisting of words that takes what was very obviously bait, was very obvious a provocation, and he responds in a way that requires them to think more deeply or allows people to vent at him. And I see that that's where your problem is. You don't like that he's remaining in inherently negative situations.
No. I'm fine with his negative situations. I just really can't understand. Like, it was almost like the provoking of him didn't make any sense to me. Like, maybe it's the part where I just don't understand why literally everybody hated him. Like, was just dumping on him, which made no sense. Like, it isn't. I don't know. It's almost like the whole land was devoid of anybody good other than the one woman who lost her husband or something in a car crash, wasn't even from there. There was void of no good people there. Like,
okay.
Made no sense.
So,
maybe that's just the theme, and I just think it's stupid.
There were good people, though.
Who?
The
Name
man
one
that
person.
he borrowed the gun from, right? He was a man of sin, right?
Okay.
He was the one with the gay prostitute, right? And he treated him with respect. There were some jokes there. There was some rudeness. And I think one of the themes of this movie is you see these people with a man who is very obvious on his stance toward these sins. But he still has to have a relationship in response to that, especially with these people knowing that he knows their deepest, darkest secrets. It's a small town, and they're also confessing to him.
Why do you go to the bar?
I think that was just a bad decision.
But he kept doing it. That's my issue, is that he even got mad at one of the other priests about integrity, which I was guessing that, I don't know what that was about.
It was about the money.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, he didn't have any integrity himself. He's cussing people out. He's going to the bar. Like, I just can't. I can't freaking figure it out. I can't get it.
Huh. See, I struggle with that because I think there were so many good lines where he's looking at people who are set in their ways, and he gives them the grace of giving them that little bump in their ruts. He's saying, this is a way that you could rethink about your actions. This is something you could do different, and they choose not to. Outside of, okay, so there's the bar. I think that the final scene of the bar was pretty negative, right?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's, to me, it just seems like all these people just got thrown into a situation. Like, it's almost like he didn't have a relationship with them before, and then all of a sudden he's like somehow having a relationship with them now, and they're all just really just treating him like crap. Like, all of a sudden, all of them at the same time. Maybe not all of them, but there's a large portion, a large percentage that are treating him badly all at the same time, which, I mean, that could be, I guess, if we're going to put this on a leadership level, it could be that, like, he's having a high anxiety himself and he's not responding well, and his own reactivity, his own anxiety is pulling out the worst of the people.
We see that in anxious systems, right? People are more reactive. And so even the most differentiated person in a highly reactive system is going to be more reactive.
Yeah, it just seemed unbelievable to me. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't
and I mean, this theme of this movie, one of them is he is surrounded by people who are defined by their sin. They define themselves, and they clearly portray that to him. And then you see him having to engage in a relationship with these people who don't care to show him the worst parts of themselves and define themselves as that to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. We're not going to see eye to eye on this one. I can tell you that for sure.
So then my question is what do you expect this man to do?
Well, I think it started a while back for him. It seemed to me like he started falling apart a while ago. Perhaps when he even went into priesthood. There was even a portion of it when he talks about he lost his wife and then his daughter. He pretty much just left her for vocation in Ireland. It's almost like he was running away right from the beginning. So I really question his guiding principles to even start out as a priest. That's where I'm stuck at. Like, it just didn't seem like he had even what it took to do that. Is he a nice guy and like he's trying to help people out? I understand that, but like that doesn't quite make it right to be a priest to me. Like, if you decide to put yourself in that position, there's an extra layer of like responsibility needs to be taken. And so it just didn't make sense to me that, and I'm not saying that like you can't have issues as a priest or somebody who takes leadership positions, but like, especially at one of which you are the center of the faith for that community, if you don't have those guiding principles to understand, like, oh, I don't know, maybe my family is one of the things I should be really caring about, above, I don't know, even my community. That's pretty clearly based biblically. And so it makes no sense to me that he keeps continually putting himself in this position to lead this community. And clearly, people have not been listening to him. There's a bunch of people who are continually spitting in his face. In fact, so far that they kill him at the end of the movie. Like,
only one, and it wasn't because of him.
It does not really matter to me. I mean, at some point it wasn't going to work out. I mean, he was already trying to flee the scene anyway. So like,
I mean, so I understand where you're coming from. I understand that you question his ability to be in there. Looking at the way that this movie is portrayed, though, I don't see much of a difference that could have been made in these people's lives. I think he handled those situations pretty well. He had existing relationships with these people that he was able to approach them and talk with them. I agree he had very minimal influence on a lot of them.
Yes.
But I also see
It's a sign of a bad leader.
I see at the end that he did have that change in the rich man.
Mm-hmm. Well, the rich man himself, made that change, but
right, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
he's putting himself in a position to be that guide to him.
Okay.
I also see that, I mean, that's a community that he is forced into, right? He doesn't have control over that community. As a priest, you're told where to go, as far as I understand.
Okay.
It's a very toxic community. I imagine that they would force out all of the healthy people in that community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just see him having drawn a bag of bad dice, and I'm not saying he's not perfect in that situation, but I also see that he performed laudably.
I strongly disagree.
And I know, but I look at the way that he approached some of these contradictions with faith, these hard topics. You see the doctor who's an atheist, and he's talking through all these hard things. He's talking about how he saw a 3-year-old die, and that is just a situation in which he's specifically taunting this man, because he's saying, where is your God when this 3-year-old who's going in for a surgery that should have been successful wakes up deaf, dumb, and paralyzed? Where is your God in that?
And then how did he act towards this gentleman who was saying that?
I don't know. How did he act?
I have no idea. You have to tell me.
I think he responded in a way that showed kindness.
By doing what?
That showed a lack of reaction.
So he didn't do anything. Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay, so tell me what you expect him to do while I pull this up.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of questioning that could be taking place there. Curiosity on his own end towards this gentleman to understand why he's thinking this way. It's almost like, I guess maybe that's what's bothering me, is that it's like he's quick to tell people kind of a little bit of, put it like, I don't know, keep saying like he had some certain quips that he was telling people, but I really wasn't hearing too many questions from him towards these people, trying to help to understand these people. And maybe that's what's annoying me a little bit, is because there's almost like, and now that would make for a dreadfully boring movie, right? Like there's just priests going around and questioning people, maybe not, but I don't know, like it's irritating me. I don't know.
I mean, that's interesting. You're right. He doesn't ask all that many questions. He asks Freddy, the sociopathic murderer,
yes,
why he won't reveal the body. I see him going around talking with people. I see him showing kindness. I don't see an opportunity for questions.
Yeah, and maybe that's it too. Is it like, especially you and I are faith, I certainly hope that I would not just be shunning people based off of the sins of their past or current, because I might as well just look in the mirror, right?
Yeah.
But that I would be willing to get close to somebody and ask a lot of questions of what's going on in their lives.
But when you look at these people, and see, that's sort of what I struggle with. When I look at them, I don't think they'd be that responsive to questions.
It doesn't mean you don't ask.
But I see him responding to them, and I see him pushing things that aren't inherently questions, but that he's asking them to question things. They're questions phrased as statements to some regard. He's not necessarily telling them what to do.
Yeah. So he's basically just cutting off the conversation because he can't sit with it.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, they're essentially cutting off the conversation with their we've talked about this in previous episodes, and I'm trying to think about what other way, when a situation becomes inherently emotional and reactive, how do you respond? How do you bring that down?
Wait, it's very reactive?
Yeah. I mean, you see these people shouting at him. You see them belligerently. Yeah.
I know what's missing from this movie.
Tell me what's missing.
Playfulness and humor. There was zero. Zero. I'm trying to think if there's a time where I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Or somebody tried to lighten the mood. There was zero lightening.
I laughed a lot. I really appreciated a lot of that dark humor.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wonder if there's an issue. There's no humor and there's no lightheartedness throughout the movie. And usually, when it comes to very highly anxious systems, that is bereft of the situation. And so I didn't laugh at all. I know that you found some dark humor quite hilarious, but like I didn't. It was just so like high anxiety the entire time. So it's really hard for me to
and
get released in any way.
I guess I would agree that in a leadership capacity, if we're looking at this movie, what we see is a man who has chosen, I guess, a guiding principle of bearing with abuses as a form of penance, right? He's run to some capacity to the priesthood, to God, and he's clinging to his faith. And in some large regard, this faith involves him maintaining relationship with these people who don't really want him in their lives, except as someone to assure their place in heaven.
Yeah, and to have a just basic dumping ground for their anxieties.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, for their guilt and their shame. But at the same time, I see him holding fast to those guiding principles. I see in large part him being non-reactive in those situations. You're right, I don't see him delving in, but I also have trouble of imagining a situation where he can say, now, Freddie, I know you ate that girl, and I know you won't tell them where she is, but who hurt you? And I know that's not a good question, but...
No, it's definitely not a good question. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, where should we go from here? We want to close this thing out and give it a couple ratings? I think that might be
final,
good.
Final thoughts. Give me your final thought on the movie. Sum it all up.
Well, with the rating?
With the rating.
With the rating. You and I, Zach, have a scale when it comes to certain alcoholic beverages, mostly whiskeys. So I'm sorry, my students.
Scotches.
My students, yes, I do drink whiskey. You must be 21. Anyways.
Preferably 23 or older.
Yes, exactly. And you won't even understand by then whiskey. So, I believe one of the lower scales, one of the lower rungs of the scale says you can't even pay me to drink this. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go with that scale. Just
okay.
I would rather have. I can't even believe these words are coming out of my mouth. I would rather have watched High School Musical 2 than watch this movie. I am at like a 0.5 out of 5.
Oh.
I don't even know why I'm giving it a 0.5. I feel I'm giving it out of pity because you like this movie so much.
Oh, I appreciate that half point of pity, but it makes the pill harder to swallow.
So Zach, go ahead. I just couldn't. Obviously, through this discussion we've been having, I could not connect with any of the characters. I did not like the theme. It was not. There's no like. I didn't feel anything at the end other than slight gas from the huarache that I had from the local Mexican restaurant.
We'd like to take a commercial break. We ask you, please find those Mexican restaurants around you that do not have websites, that barely have phone numbers, that their front door says Mexican restaurant and not their name, because they have good food and you are supporting your community and some lovely people.
And it's authentic.
It's authentic. Tell us what huarache is.
Well, I believe it's probably not huarache. It's probably...
Huarache. Huarache.
So it's basically just a Mexican pizza that is like 20 million times better than if you go to Taco Bell.
You got a corn base, corn flour,
it's like a corn flour tortilla.
You got some refried beans. Then you got your meat. Same price for chorizo, chicken, steak, liver,
of course.
Tongue. You get your pick.
Some onions if you like, cheese, avocado, and some sour cream.
And then they give you 2 authentic Mexican sauces, which
and
you never
limes.
indulged. Lime and cukes.
And cucumbers.
Some cucumbers,
yes. So,
and that was our commercial break.
Yes,
Back to my rating.
So now, I'm glad I at least had that tonight, because otherwise it would have been a dreadful. Get out of here. Get out of my pocket. Okay, so Sarah, tell me your scoring and all that goodness.
So,
we already know where you're going.
Really, I thought this is actually one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah.
So we don't always give the same scale in case those people are watching it.
I really, really appreciate this movie. I think it's a very poetic movie. It's inherently sad. I love that. But it's still funny in a very dark way. And I also love that. And I've always struggled with putting people on pedestals. And man, do I put this priest on a pedestal. I think the way that he engages with these people and does not respond to their provocations. He doesn't ask questions, I'll give you that. But the way that he turns their phrases on them that are meant to attack so that they themselves stop and reconsider, right? I think that's a shy step of a question, and I appreciate a lot of the turns of phrases.
Yeah, because taking somebody else's words and tossing them back at them has always done so well in the past.
Oh, it works so well. We see it in this movie. Hands with a bullet in the gut and a bullet through the brains.
Yeah, it really worked out for this guy.
It really worked out.
Oh boy! So your rating?
So let's see. 10 is personal stash.
Yes.
9 is close friends only.
Yeah.
8 is.
I don't remember. I know 7 is I want you to try this.
7 is I want you to try this. 8 is personal stash. 9 is only me. I don't know. Oh, 8 is close friends only, and like 9 is
personal stash.
Personal stash. I'd give this like 8.5.
Wow. Okay.
But on my normal movie scale, I'd give it like 7.5, 8.
Oh, I see. You were actually making it as if you were drinking a drink.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
8.5, 9-ish. It's way up there. I love this movie. I actually appreciate, I don't know if this makes me like the movie less, but I appreciate that you don't like it because it makes it more valuable to me.
I feel like I've just been angry this entire... we've been talking about this here for like 35 minutes now, and I just wanted it to be over as soon as possible.
You're mad.
I'm upset about this movie. So.
I'm actually mad that you didn't find that funny, though. There were some really good
nothing
singers.
Funny.
They were so
nothing
good.
Funny. Well, Zach, how else can people find us?
Yeah, so I'm Zach, and this is Alex, and you can find our ZAMRs on YouTube. We love to post ZAMRs. He mentioned High School Musical, too. We actually watched that in 30 minutes, and you can check out our review of that. If you want to know how we did it, you're going to have to watch it. They can check us out on Facebook. If you want the short link, it's fb.me/OF Leadership. Or you can just type in Overfunctioning Leadership into Google, and we're somewhere on Facebook and somewhere on YouTube. At least in Northeast Ohio, we're in the top 3. So
possibly Japan. We have no idea.
10th of our listeners.
Obviously, we also have a podcast in which we shoot with John Moyer as well, and so that's going to be more of your bedrock, foundational Bowen family systems theory. All the stuff that we talk about, all the language we use, it's all on that. But we also tackle some different things as well and have a good time talking about it. And so those come out every other Tuesday.
First and third.
The first and third. And then May, we're going to have a 5th Tuesday, which is going to be another Brumble.
If you want to know what a Brumble is, check it out.
Yeah. So thank you for listening to us. Oh, also, if you'd like to have a movie that you want us to review, leave a comment on YouTube, or you can also email us at theofpodcast@gmail.com. That's theofpodcast@gmail.com.
And so thanks for listening. I'm Zach.
And I'm Alex.
And I love this movie.
And don't watch it.
That hurts.